Welcome to Locals Only Cantina.
Mixing it up with
Brandon
and Cherie.
What's up? We're
Hey
back.
Guys,
No,
how's
you're
it
not.
going?
What are you doing?
No?
It's my turn.
Okay, damn it.
Listen to her. She's trying to steal my thunder. What the hell? So we're back again, and we had a fun talk last time.
Yeah.
With our friend Aubrey Ray.
Yeah.
New friend of ours. More Cherise. I just met her online. Yeah, we met her online.
That's super awkward.
That's the way we do. That's the way you do shit nowadays, right? Like people don't meet people face to face.
No, yeah, that was actually the first time I had ever spoken to her and saw her face before. Actually, we've been chatting a little bit online.
And it's a purely sexual relationship.
It was all about the sex.
All about sex, that's it.
You're going to have to listen to the last episode to understand that one.
If you didn't hear that, tune in to YouTube, especially if you want to see all the cool stuff there. So
yeah.
No, we had a fun talk. She's a sex coach, and she's somebody that Cherie met through a group she's in, and it was awesome. I think so. It was good.
Yeah, she had a lot of great things to say and add to just the things that we've been talking about. So
cool. So we are back, and as usual, we're in the cantina / guitar room / whatever this is, my office. But it is a cantina, so we're gonna start with a shot.
Hell yeah, we are.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna change gears just a tad. So we've talked a lot about the church we came from and how that's affected our upbringing in life and marriage and raising kids and all that shit. Today we're gonna talk about a concept that I actually got really intrigued with. Not too awfully long ago, I read David Goggins' book, and he talks about embracing the suck a lot. And that was a concept that actually sort of really made my head, didn't make my head spin. It really just opened up my thinking a lot about all the shit we could go through in life, the things that are hard to do that we do anyways. Hopefully we do anyways. But it's a concept that you can relate to any part of your life. I think you can relate it to your fitness. You can relate it to your business. You can relate it to your family. You can relate it to the conflicts you have as a couple. You can relate it to raising kids. I've got a Jeep in the garage that I'm restoring. I can relate that shit to that, right? I roll across some things that fuck, I don't know how to do this thing, right? And so you either just fucking quit or you can embrace the suck and learn, right? And that's what embracing the suck is about. Coming out on the other end better than... Oh, I just hit your mic. Noise. Sorry about that. You come out on the other end better than you were before, because instead of running away from conflict or hardship or whatever you might want to call that, you just face that shit. You go head on into it.
Yeah, I think now that he's kind of going through this...
Cherie didn't know what we were going to discuss. This was my plan.
Yeah, and I actually just want to add to that I think that actually goes along with just building your confidence about those things. I mean, how many times do we wish we were more confident in a certain area, but if we don't embrace the hard part around that, we never build that confidence, because you have to kind of step into the things that are really hard and just do those things that are really hard to be able to build confidence. So
yeah. So that's what we're going to discuss.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to start with this one, okay? So I was cursed / blessed with something in my life that has been super hard. It's been my speech, right? The way that I talk. When I was 2 and I first learned to talk, I stuttered. I always did. I have I know some people, they have a traumatic brain injury and that makes them have that issue. Some people say they start it a little later in life when they're, I don't know, older, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. who knows what. For me, it started when I was 2. The very first time I learned to speak, that was a thing. Okay. And for a long time, it was a curse. I saw that as a curse. I thought, like, this is fucking stupid. Like, how could I don't know. I actually don't know how to, like, put that into words right now. It was fucking awful, right? You know? But I remember at one point in time, somebody said something to me that at least, like, kind of, like, flipped the script a tad. And they're like, you know, there's people that are born without legs. And I'm like, well, that's true. I have legs, right? At least I may not be able to speak freely, but people certainly have it worse than me, right? But it still didn't necessarily, like, help me feel better, right? But here's the thing about me and the way that I've dealt with that is, for some reason, there's something about me that I was fucking, like, I refused to let this thing beat me, right? It did turn me into a shy kid. I wasn't afraid to talk to friends. I had friends. I had, like, a really good group of friends. But I didn't date much, right? We talked about that a couple episodes ago. I was really shy. I wasn't in shape. I was a little bit fat, you know, and I just didn't think girls would be into me. So I was really shy. The only saving grace for me in high school was I was pretty cool at that, right? And people thought that was cool. So that's sort of
that, as in the guitar he's pointing to behind
him. Oh,
yeah.
Those of you on podcast can't see me here, but there's guitars on my wall. So that actually sort of became my identity in high school. Was I played guitar and I was pretty good, right? So within my group of friends, we had a little band, and my friend played drums. I had a friend that played bass, and we'd jam out in the garage. And that was the thing that I felt like made me cool. But I wasn't cool enough to ask somebody out on a date. I was super scared about that, actually, right? Because once I was on the date, then what? I actually remember I did go on a blind date one time. And I think me and the chick said, like, 2 or 3 words the whole time.
Who set you up on the date?
Joel.
At least it was a friend.
She wasn't all that cute anyways, but hell, what am I to say that, because I didn't date at all. She was like 10 times as cute as the chicks that you usually date, right? Because I didn't date, so.
It's actually kind of funny because I took one of our kids out tonight to go school shopping, and I was actually talking about this exact thing and just having the confidence to kind of go outside your comfort zone and how hard that is as a teenager and the struggles that you go through in that way. Like, for me, it was very different, like, because I didn't have some of the same struggles that you had, but one of the things that I knew from a very young age was that I knew I didn't want to miss out on any experience in my life. And so I went after that. I went out and I was the one who asked people out on dates because I didn't want to miss out on that. Even though guys didn't want to date me, I wanted to date. So I would go and ask them out. So, but you know what? It ended up being a great high school experience for me because I took the initiative and I
didn't necessarily take that initiative in high school, but I did later on in life. I did take that, right? So like I said, I wasn't going to let this thing beat me, right? And so I've always done the shit. Bless you. Are there 2 more?
No, nope. I'm good. It's not allergies. It's
Shree
just
always sneezes in 3s.
Mm-hmm. I held it back. You held it back.
You guys just witnessed something
miracle.
Never happens ever. No, but like this is something that. So I eventually got to a point in my life where I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking let this thing beat me. I was at home one day when I was, I don't know, probably 17, and my dad had this friend. My dad's friend stuttered really bad, and he called on the phone one day, and I picked up the phone, and man, this guy couldn't get anything out at all. It made me feel bad for him, right? And so that was one of the things where I'm like, man, that, like, yeah, people for real do have it worse, right? But I got to the point though where I'm like, I'm not gonna let this thing beat me, and so I'd constantly put myself in situations that would scare me. When I was in college, when I met Cherie and when we were first married, I kind of like built a small window cleaning business, And to do that, I had to go out and like go door to door to door and like talk to people. Fucking miserable, right? Before that, I served a mission for my church. That was scary as hell too, right? I had to like talk the whole time. Not only did I have to talk, but I had to learn a new language. But I just refused to quit, right? And it was a good part of my life that was miserable. I would come home at the end of the day just exhausted. Like, I don't even want to like speak. I don't want to talk, right? But this is like an embrace the suck that took like years, like decades actually, right? But I would say like, you know, I've done those things multiple times, and now I make my living negotiating with people. I buy cars, I broker cars, and I have to negotiate. I have to speak. I'm talking to new people every day. When we were in Hawaii, I got a job as a tour guide. That was scary.
Non-stop talking.
Non-stop. I was the only one that spoke.
Hours and hours.
14 to 16 hours a day. I had a little microphone on my head. And I knew that I wanted to do the job. I knew that it would be a fun job. But at the same time, like in my brain, I'm thinking, is this actually something I can do? But I wasn't going to like pass up on the chance to have a fun job like that, right? So I did that shit anyways. And some days were easier than other days. But still, actually, that was the point, I think. And this is just a couple years ago, guys. That was like the final like nail in the coffin, I think, where I was going to let that thing ever impede what I did, right? And now here I am. We're on a podcast speaking to like 3 people right now. I would like it to be more than 3, but still. And what I found in my life after all these years, this is the point of this long story, is when you embrace the suck, you come out of it on the other end stronger than you were before. I knew people, well, I guess I didn't know them, but I've read stories. I've been in speech therapy and stuff like that, and I've come across all these things where there are people that just simply like pretend to be mute, and they like write notes and stuff like that. They just refuse to speak, right? And I was never going to let this thing turn me into that, right? So,
which is crazy, because when you do embrace the suck and you end up on the other side of it, it's almost a strength of yours in a weird way, like with your job, like with both those jobs. I mean, even like the average person sometimes can't even do those jobs that you do that can speak freely and just fine, right?
I used to sit there and like I would hear people say how they have like fears of like public speaking and stuff like that. And
I'm one of them.
That did not compute in my brain. I'm like, I can't understand why you would be afraid of that. Like, all you got to do is open up your mouth, and it fucking moves and like makes words, and they sound right? Like, that never made sense to me in my mind, ever.
Well, here's the crazy thing. So when we were younger, like young parents, we would be in church, and we moved around a few times, and so every time we moved into a new area, they'd always ask us to speak. So we'd always end up speaking in front of a big group of people every time we moved, and I hated getting up in front of people because it scared me to death, but I knew I wanted to be better at it. But then I would get up, they'd always have us speak on the same day, and Brandon would get up and he would speak, and he would have this amazing speech that he would do, and then I'd have to go up after him, and I'm just like thinking, what am I just knew I wasn't going to do as good of a job as him, because what I do is like I'll start thinking about the next thing I want to say before I finish what I'm saying, and then I'll forget where I'm at in my talk. So I would like have papers and papers full of all this information that I wanted to get out for people, and I would lose my place, and then I would like be sitting up there like just looking confused and needing help for somebody to like shoot me or get me down from like being shot would have like
church like
I would have really wanted a sniper back there to just shoot me, even with just a sleep dart.
A sleep dart.
Sleeping dart, like, a tranquilizer.
You just fall over.
Hey, that would have been better than what happened, because there were many times where I just lost my place and I just kind of stared out at everybody. But after every time we would speak, everybody would come up and tell Brandon how great of a job he did. And
I always saw that as they just like were sympathizing.
No, you were such a great speaker and
Yeah.
you like do it so well that I was just always jealous and I just always wished that I could be as good of a speaker as you were. So
Yeah, see, ridiculous, but still, you embrace the suck, and I've learned. Shri actually just learned this too. So she started a podcast shortly before this one. She embraced some suck. Remember the first day you posted yours? Like when you actually like pressed the button to like make it public?
Yeah, so I think we did talk a little bit about this in one of the other episodes.
It
but
might have been our practice one.
It might have been, that's true.
I don't know if we actually...
So Brad and I have been talking about doing a podcast for a long time, and so last year during November, December, I started buying some equipment to get this all going, and finally, like midway through December, I'm like, okay, I bought all this equipment, I need to get moving on it, or I've spent all this money for nothing, right? And I could tell Brandon was just like, okay, here's another box in the mail for you, sure. Why are you buying all this equipment? Like, he had no idea what I was even doing.
I thought for sure she had an affair with the Amazon guy.
Yeah, maybe. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. No, but it was crazy because I was like, okay, January 1st, I'm starting my podcast, and I'm going to do this podcast about this. And I just decided I was going to get going with it. Well, I would record them and then I would never post them because I was scared to death. I didn't like anything that I was saying because, again, like I have a fear of speaking in front of people, and I didn't really want to have... I mean, I'm just like anybody else where you don't like to listen to your voice. You don't even really like to look at yourself. I mean, anytime I open my Facebook and I see my face, because I am pretty out there on my Facebook, so I have to, like, I seriously want to just throw my phone across the room because I hate looking at myself and hearing my voice. But the crazy thing is it took me from like December clear till April 4th, I think, was the first day that I put out my podcast. But I had to make things happen to get myself to take the next step. Like I started talking to people about being guests on my podcast, and they kept asking me when they were going to get to be on, and I was like, okay, I haven't started it yet.
When do I get to be a guest? Well, it has to be a thing first.
So, I mean, thank you to especially Brittany out there. I love you to death for getting me going with it. You're actually a big reason why I got started with it all. But finally, like, she kept asking when she was going to get to be a guest, and then finally I was like, okay, I just got to get moving with this. So I decided to start making these announcements to say that I had something cool that was going to be happening on the next Monday, and nobody knew what it was. I had family members calling me. They thought we were going to move to Hawaii again. They had no idea.
Oh, I wish it was that.
They were so worried, but I didn't tell
I wish
anybody.
Instead of guitars back here, we had like palm trees in the background.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
But the crazy thing is like by putting those announcements out, by people kind of pushing me to make the move, it helped me to embrace the suck and be able to at least get to the moment where I could press the button.
And I was there when she did, and she was sitting there in her desk, and she's like got her finger.
Oh man, I said at 9 o'clock this day.
Because,
so.
like, she's sitting there, she's got her finger, and I'm like, fucking send that shit. Send it.
Yeah, here I am. I'm actually holding my wrist because Brandon's pushing my hand down, and I'm holding my finger away from the button to send it because it was the scariest thing to be able to put my first thing out there because you're so afraid of judgment. I mean, really, that's what a lot of our fears come from, right?
And then she sent it, and it wasn't as bad as she thought.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad at all, actually.
Well, the crazy thing is I like to explain it this way. Like, I had every emotion that you could ever feel in like 5 seconds. I literally like freaked out, cried, laughed, smiled, wanted to puke. Like, I had all these emotions all within like 5 seconds, and it was just like this crazy, insane feeling I've never felt before.
Because all of a sudden, like, you're like, what's the word? Vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, to like the world if they so choose to like tune in, right?
Yeah.
But she did it, and it's been awesome. She's had awesome results with it so far. She's got this really cool guy that's like her fitness coach, and that's another embrace the suck that she's done too, where she's had to do some things that are somewhat hard, but she's had like an awesome like transformation. But that's the thing, like, embrace the suck, because everything that you do in life that's worth it kind of sucks to some degree, right? It's always hard. If it's not hard, it's usually not worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, so her other podcast is about like some of the goals that she's had in life, and one of them being like fitness and everything like that. And she's had to like really eat super strict and everything like that. I mean, has that been hard?
It's been super hard.
But has it been awesome though?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about if you do something really strict like that for your fitness, then you'll have results pretty fast. And with a lot of things in life, you don't always have results that fast, right? If you stick to a program, right? Like in a relationship, for example, like you may have to embrace the suck because your partner's going through something, or you're both going through something, and it may not even be, you may not even be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel for a while, right? In those situations. But at least with fitness, like I got to see after a week, like I started losing weight and leaning down, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I want to keep doing this. This is awesome, and it was super hard. I mean, I eat completely different food than my family does, and Brandon started eating dinners with me just to be supportive, and probably because you want to be a little bit healthier also.
I eat somewhat decent as is, so.
Yeah, so I mean, the hardest part was like really asking my family, my kids, to be able to be supportive, because that's the one thing that you'll realize is when you do embrace the suck and you don't have the support of the people that you love and love you, that can make the suck more.
But now, like, because of her, I've been going to the gym forever, and I haven't really been successful in getting like my son to go with me. But now our middle child goes to the gym with Cherie every day. My son goes to the gym with me every day. She's got another family member that just signed up with her coach. Like, I mean, it's not only just, sometimes embracing the suck is not just for you, right? It's for others as well, right?
Yeah.
You set that example that like in this family we do hard things, and everyone benefits.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to do the podcast, is because I knew I was going to do something really hard. And I mean, what my goals were is I have a book that I want to finish. And so that's actually what I'm going to start getting into in my other podcast, is just rewriting that book. And then the thing that I've been doing so far was that I wanted to have a 6-pack. Like I thought about like what could be really hard for me to accomplish, and I've been pretty sporty my whole life, so I didn't want to do something that was easy for me. And a lot of my friends were doing running, and I just don't love running. It's not something that I see as like
that's
something I want to do.
That's you're willing to embrace, huh?
Well, it's something that I know I can do, right? Like I know I could accomplish that. So it wasn't something that I was like, this is going to be hard.
Not
it would just
give you a 6-pack, though. Is the thing.
No, and I wanted to do something that maybe not everybody can do, and I wanted to be able to prove that to myself.
What's been the most difficult part of it?
Probably the nutrition part of it.
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, that's really hard, especially like because I love baking, I love bread, I love all of those carby foods.
Yeah.
If I get stressed out, I eat.
She used to bake bread all the time. I'm like, you have to fucking stop this. You're making us all fat.
Yeah, I used to have a little bakery inside of a little local like country store in Utah, like when our kids were little, and I used to bake for that, and I used to bake 2 loaves of bread rolls every week, and I started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and so I was like, this might not be the best idea for a business for me to have.
Bad plan.
I thoroughly enjoyed it because I would be like, 5 for the store, 2 for me. 5 for the store, 2 for me. Like it was really easy to have those treats all the time, but I mean, especially around the holidays. I mean, here's the real hard part about it is the social aspect, right? Because we like to have a lot of people around us. Like, we love to just spend time with people that we love. And what do? We spend that time with food. Like, it's always associated with food. So I would say that's the hardest.
Yeah, whenever you hang out, there's snacks, there's drinks, there's stuff like that.
Yeah. But I mean, the crazy thing though is you realize how easy it can be when you put your mind to it. And that's why, like, what I talk about a lot on my other podcast is just the mindset and understanding that you are worth the change, and it is very possible. And
yeah,
that's
absolutely
what I needed to know for myself, is that it was possible. But yeah, I think that kind of works in a lot of different ways though. I mean, even in our relationship, and in many ways we have to embrace the suck sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, in all aspects, actually. Like, the little business that I have right now that I actually enjoy wouldn't have come about if I didn't have a partner screw me over, right? Like, I didn't necessarily have the mindset of embrace the suck at the time, right? But looking back at it now, I didn't enjoy what we had, the business that we had. But I do like what I do a whole lot more now. So, I mean, that's another example of, like, hardships kind of, as long as you don't quit, usually life usually works out, right?
Well, too, like, we've had things like this happen many times. I mean, even when our business partner, like, screwed us over, I was working at Fox 13, and I was working at the news station just as an assistant, and I had wanted to move into sales, but I just never thought I was ready for it. I didn't think that I could handle it. I didn't think I had the background for it or the skill set for it.
But you didn't necessarily have the background or the experience.
No,
or
like,
anything
I knew that I wasn't qualified for that position, but I wanted to learn and be able to grow into that position. And with what we went through with the business partner, I just knew I had to, like, step up and figure things out. Like, and you helped a lot with that, being able to help push me into, like, just getting ready to go there and even talk to my boss. That was the embrace the suck thing that I had to do, right? Here I am as an assistant, and I'm like, Brandon's like, "Hey, you got this. You can go in and talk to your boss." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go tell my boss that I am all of a sudden I'm qualified for this position that I'm not even qualified for." And so the crazy thing is I would have never ever taken that opportunity. Well, I would have eventually down the road, maybe a year or two later.
What did he say when he did?
He told me the coolest thing that I had ever had a boss tell me.
Tell him how you, like, were, like, before, like, when you walked in there, like, getting yourself in there, like, she was super scared. I've heard this story, so she's leaving good parts out.
Oh, maybe I'm forgetting those parts. What part?
Like, when you walked in to talk to him and you were, like, super scared, but you're like, I'm gonna, like, this is what I want, right? You know?
Oh, I was frightened. So my sister and I have this thing that we always say, that we get this from our dad, but my dad is a very emotional man, and even when Hallmark commercials or church commercials come on, he will bawl during these commercials. If there's a baby, a cat,
it's like that scene on Dumb and Dumber where they're watching the PG&E commercial, and they're, like, bawling and wiping their tears with money, right? You know?
Yeah.
Except for he doesn't wipe his tears with hundreds, though.
No. No, but my dad has always been a super emotional person, and so anytime I've ever had to ask a boss for a raise or I've gone in for an interview, I'm, like, on the verge of tears. Like, it is that hard for me to have confrontation and feel like I'm going to come out on top, right? That's how scared I am. So I knew I was, like, shaking, and I knew I was going to just start crying. And I'm like, I can't cry. Like, I like on, what's that cartoon? The Spaghetti with a Chance of Meatballs or something, or whatever. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
A chance of meatballs. I'm not buying spaghetti unless it fucking has meatballs on it.
I always call it the wrong thing. But there's one scene in that cartoon that I love where the police officer is like an emotional guy, and he wants to be this big, tough, strong guy, and so he has this tear that comes out all the time, and he's like, "Get back in there!" Right? Like he like demands that his tear gets back inside. Yeah. And that's kind of how I feel when I like get into these moments, right? Like I'm about to walk into my boss's office, and I'm like, get back in there. Like I'm just like so angry that I can feel those tears coming on, right? And so we go in there and we're sitting down, and he's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, I'm all, well, I think I'm ready to move up to the sales position. I know you guys have this position open, and I would like to have an opportunity to take this position. And he kind of sat and looked at me for a second, and then he leaned over towards me and he says, I've been waiting for you to ask me this. And I was just blown away, because I think there's so many times in our lives where, see, these tears are coming out, and I'm about ready to like yell at them. But I mean, this was such an emotional part in my life and such a huge deal for me, because as you're at home with your kids and you're a stay-at-home mom, and then you go to have your career, and you're only like so many years into your career, and then all of a sudden you go and ask for something like this that you're not even qualified for, and to have somebody who's way up here when you're like very low on the totem pole be able to say that to you, all of a sudden in that moment, I realized that I didn't see my worth. I didn't see the abilities that I had that other people saw in me. And it was a huge stepping stone for my career, for everything in my life, because it made me realize that I was capable of so much more than I saw in the mirror. And it was due to that moment. And that moment would have never happened had we not gone through that really shitty time. Yeah. I mean, I was already on the verge of tears. Like, when that whole thing happened to us, I would go to work and I would just bawl because I didn't know what we were going to do. Yeah. I mean, that all happened to us 2 weeks before Christmas, and it was a super stressful time. I think I actually had a coworker that thought that like one of my family members died because I just could not stop like crying, and like it was just such a hard time.
Good thing I had a really cool car to sell, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that's like one of the cool things about like stepping up and embracing the suck, is you don't know your abilities.
That was the thing, was your boss saw something in you that you didn't see yourself, right? And that happens a lot. Only with certain people, though. Not everybody wants to like bring you up.
True.
Most don't. Most want to like drag you down, right? But occasionally you find somebody like that that sees potential that you didn't know you had yourself.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you need somebody like that. Like Brandon's been that way for me, especially like with my podcast, because every time I'd go to put out another podcast on my other podcast, I'm like, what the hell am I doing this for? And he would just be like, he's like, you're doing it because of this, and you're doing it because of this. And he'd bring me back to my center and let me know that what I was doing meant something to people, and I needed to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like you get in your own head and you don't really see like what it can mean for other people, and sharing your story, I think that's like the most beautiful thing that you can do. That's a part of the thing that I loved about living in Hawaii is, so my job in Hawaii was actually in marketing, and I got to sit at a desk and talk to people and hear their stories and share my stories about the island. And being in that moment and being able to hear other people's stories, where they came from, people were coming from all over the country, or all over the world, actually, sorry. And I would talk to people from Germany and Australia, and to just have them share their experiences with me and me get to share mine, like, you learn so much from people. And I think that we don't realize how much we can touch other people's lives by sharing our stories. So
yeah. And that also wouldn't have happened either. Hawaii had the business thing went south and all that stuff, right? Like, I don't know. I just felt like this was a cool conversation to have because really a lot of the good stuff that we have in life comes after like shitty times, right? But when you're going through this shitty time, you don't really realize that there's like light at the end of that tunnel, right?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is actually, hopefully I can say it right, but it's everything that you want is on the other side of fear. And I love that quote because you really don't know how to get what you want out of life until you're able to level up and get past those fears.
Yeah, it's like Ed Milet says too, right? You know, when you go through the hardships, on the other end of hardship is where you're introduced to your new self, right?
Yeah,
and you do that like time and time and time again.
I also love, like, one of the things I really love that he talks about on his podcast that he does is he talks about changing your family tree. And that's kind of what this whole thing is that we're talking about, you know, like we're doing something different than our parents did with their relationships. We do something different than a lot of other people, our friends and everybody around us do in their relationships. But I think that's what it's all about, is changing your family tree, changing the direction of kind of the blah blah life that most people end up kind of settling in. And we have a choice to either settle or to take our relationships, our careers, our fitness to the next level, and it's all up to us. Yeah, of course the book that I read, Goggins' book, Embrace the Suck, was all about fitness for the most part, right? Which is, I mean, you can't really ignore that, right? Working out sometimes sucks. I think it's fun. But I didn't think it was fun at first, though, right? You know, and then... Yeah, that's the suck part of it, right? Is just really getting started. Because once you... I mean, for me, that was hard because I've talked on my podcast about how actually part of what got me into wanting to do my fitness thing was that I was looking at my phone one day and I got an alert that came on my phone, and it was Vasa Fitness, and it said, this is really embarrassing, but it said to me, last time you checked in was 364 days ago. And I'm like, what? I'm like, it's literally almost been a year since I've been to the gym.
She got it because she had gone to the gym that day. So she had gone twice in a year.
Yeah.
300 by a day.
So I mean, that is the hard part about like the whole fitness thing, is just getting yourself there, you know, that, and once you get yourself there and making those new habits, and things become easy. And
once you're at the gym, you have nothing else to do but to work out.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that you need for yourself, and that's self-care, you know, like a lot of people are talking about self-love, but that's part of the self-love is being able to say, hey, this time is for me to better myself, and that's okay to have time for yourself.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, there's that. I mean, again, back to like, it sucks, but it's worth it in the end because the results are there, right? You know, so. Well, I don't know. Is there much more to say? We about done with this one?
I don't know. You brought up the topic.
I brought it up.
Tell me.
It's all up to me.
Okay, but here's the thing. Like, we've been talking a lot about...
Well, I still have drink left, so that means we're not done yet. So what's that?
Well, no, so if we want to bring in, like, kind of what we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks is, like, our whole experience with leaving the church and everything, too, was... It was so sucky. You guys, it was so sucky. I mean, Brandon and I fought. Like, we fought. Like, we would not have...
physically. We didn't box or anything like that.
Maybe we should have.
We should have.
No, but I mean, it was hell. Like, if I could even, like, imagine what hell was, like, that's what we lived through for a couple years when we were fighting about it all.
And that's what I hate so much about the whole thing is, like, you're fighting over things that are, like, kind of imaginary.
At the time, like, they're not, right? Like, they're big, serious things, you know? But here's the thing. Had we not stuck it through, had we not decided that our relationship was worth the struggle, I mean, how many times are couples in fights over the same exact thing for years?
Yeah.
Years.
And
most of them don't make it through those experiences. But through our experience and being able to stick together through it all and figure out a way through it.
So I worked for the fire department at the time. And I worked 48-hour shifts for like probably 4 or 5 months. Every time I went to work, I was scared to death that Sheree was going to like pack up and leave, and I'd come home to an empty house. Like, that was real. And then one day she came to see me at work. I'm going to tell a story that's going to embarrass you.
Yeah, I already know.
Yeah, I know. She knows. So she came to work one day to see me at work, and
we'll say it again.
Yeah. We went into my room, and here's actually the interesting thing with us. And I swear that this is a thing that, like, no matter how hard shit has got, like, it's stayed good because of this. We've always had a dope sex life. Even in the midst of it being hard, like, we never stopped that. And I know some of you are out there like, how the fuck are you mad at each other and fighting for all that time and you still have sex? We did, because we have fun. Like, we're good at it. It's fun. It's a good time. But she came to see me at work one day, and we went into my room at the station there, and we talked a couple episodes ago about how when you're Mormon, you wear garments or underwear that you wear underneath your clothes, and they're not cute at all.
They're so hot.
No, they're not at all. They're like, the girl has to wear things down to her knees, and they're not cute. They're not cool. Well, we were in my room, and we kind of started to like make out a little bit, and I reached my hand down her pants, and she had a thong on, not garments on. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's up with this? This is weird. And so I asked her, I'm like, what's up with that? And she goes, yeah, I can't do that anymore. I'm done with that too. And that was about the time where I'm like, oh, fucking thank God. Like, we're good and we're safe, right? Because she had, in the meantime, been studying on her own and kind of came to her own conclusion that she also was not super into it. But that was like, seriously, like 3 years of me embracing the suck, I guess, right? Like, it was sucky. But in the end, we got to a point where we got to get out of that thing and move on with our own life, away from that. And it actually, like, changed things, like, completely.
Yeah, we created a whole different world for ourselves, and we had no idea what was going to be in place after all of what we went through. No. We had to go through so many shitty experiences. We literally went through hell trying to make our way through this, right? Yeah. And we had no idea what it was going to mean for us afterwards. And I don't think anybody really realizes when they're going through it.
When I got home from work, the house was not going to be empty. So that was good. You know, like, that was for real, a real fear I had for like months. Every time I went to work, it was really shitty until that day. So that was good. But
thongs save the world.
Thongs save most things. I like thongs. Thongs are good. Yeah, so, well, I think we've talked a lot about embracing our sucky times.
I think just the thing to end with would be, you know, it really sucks to go through those sucky times, right? It's really hard to go through those times. But if you can embrace the suck and really realize what you want out of that situation,
well, you learn
what's
a lot
important
from those things.
Yeah, then you actually end up a better person, a better life on the other side of those things.
And if you take that situation where you have maybe a disagreement, an argument, a fight with your partner, and you try to like hear their words and like learn from that instead of just getting pissed off and taken off, well, you're embracing the suck of that time, and you might come out on the other end with a more clear version or clear understanding of who they are, what they want, what they need, and what you can give them, and vice versa, right? It's like, I kind of coined this term that I thought was cool a couple episodes ago. We do makeups, not breakups, right? I think that's that, right? You know, embrace the suck. You figure out, you go through the shitty stuff, you learn what you need to learn from that thing, and you move on better than you were before.
Yeah, I mean, you'll never see what's on the other side if you don't try to make it through. And sometimes, I mean, for us, like, that hell lasted a long time, and it may only be a day for you, it may be a week or two for you, it may be months for you, and it may be years for you. But with, like, deep down, if it's really what you want, what you both want, then it's worth it, and try to make it work out for you guys. So, and that was the one thing that led me back to, like, studying and trying to figure out where I was in that moment, was just the fact that Brandon was my best friend, and we shared everything, and it was only the religion part that we were fighting over. And but here's the thing, how easy is it in a relationship to have one thing really screw shit up?
Yeah. I really have a hard time hearing and understanding when people are like, well, I'm going to break up because of this thing. And I'm like, that's a stupid reason to break up. That's fixable, right? But, you know, we can only share what we've done and what we've experienced. And then hopefully it helps. I don't know. But this drink is now empty. So I think that means that the episode's over.
Nice.
So, that's our little show about embracing the suck. And,
Yeah. Well, love you guys. Make sure that you subscribe and like it. Maybe even give us a rating so that we can reach more people. Because we want to be able to help more people. So
also, like we mentioned last time, we do have that Facebook group. I have decided that I'm not going to do the thing where I just like send it out to all my friend list and all Shree's friend list. We only want people on the group that want to be on the group. So if you're interested, look up Locos Only Cantina.
Yep. I'll have the link also and all of the stuff that we post.
I don't want just a million people on there that are just going to join the group just because they're our friends. We want people on it because they're legitimately interested. So if you're interested, join the group. We'll have some talks, we'll have some chats, we'll share some pictures, we'll do this or that, we'll do date night shit, we'll have all sorts of, and maybe we'll have like meetups and like sit around and have cocktails and
I think also that we'll do some webinar type stuff and do Q&A and talk as like couples, so you guys can be part of like discussions that we have and what things you guys have been through. So
that'd be dope.
Anyways, it's gonna be a lot of fun, so we hope that you guys will join and we'll have a cool tribe to be able to grow and level up together. So.
That'd be
awesome. Okay,
all right,
love
guys.
You guys.
Peace
have
out.
A great night.
Embrace the suck. Have some fun with it. Don't quit. Love you guys.
See ya.